Welcome to the Real People, Real Business Show, where we're talking with business owners who are in the trenches, everyday people who are working hard and have relevant and inspiring stories that you can relate to. Everyone we speak to is actively building and growing their business and is here to share their experiences, lessons, wisdom, and guidance so you can be inspired to take action towards your own goals. Today, I'm so excited to welcome Zoa Connor. Zoa provides personalized wellness services through her business, Zen and Vitality with Zoa, to people who want to feel great, age wonderfully, and stay healthy through lifestyle choices rather than medication and surgery. I think that sounds perfect as one of those people who is trying to age wonderfully. I can't wait to hear what you have to say. Welcome to the show, Zoa, and thanks so much for taking the time to share your story today.
Thanks so much for having me.
You're so welcome. Let's dive in. Tell me a little bit about your story. How did you get started? How did you get to where you are right now? What was the big trigger for you in starting your business?
So I've had a variety of past lives. I've got a PhD in physics. I've taught at a university. I've taught childbirth classes. I've done all kinds of crazy things, and I have landed myself teaching yoga and Pilates for several of the local studios. And each place that I worked, I took on new tasks, and kind of found my own way. And both of the places that I worked locally kind of worked out where I wanted to do more than they really wanted me to. And I kind of started to figure out, I think these things would work better. And I think I can come up with some ways to not just be the teacher of this one particular thing, but to teach all kinds of things related to having a healthy lifestyle. Because I know that my clients always wanted to know, how do I live like you do and feel that good?
Isn't that awesome? That's what owning our own businesses allows us, right? And I think this is why entrepreneurship is so much the future for us, because it allows us to bring to the market services built in a way that we know people need rather than what's good for a bigger corporation that necessarily has to run things in a different way, right? Where we
Right.
optimize for profit as opposed to optimizing for the individual. So tell me a little bit about what was different that was missing from the way that services were being delivered that you wanted to change.
I didn't want to just focus on one part of wellness, just movement or just weight loss. I wanted people to be thinking actively about how to feel good and be well every single day in pretty much everything they do. What they eat, when they go to sleep, how they move their body, what do they clean their bathrooms with, all kinds of things. It's all relevant. You can't take any one piece and make it more important than the rest.
Right. And that's something we're discovering a lot these days, is how interrelated all of these things that we do are.
Right.
And so how did you move from being the teacher into your own business? And did you bring along clients or were they there already?
So, yes, I did bring along some clients because when I stopped working for my previous employer, they were like, well, where are you going? you can't leave. And, that wasn't true for all of the people that I had in my life before. Many of them chose to stay. And that's great for them too. Everyone has something that works. But the people that liked me didn't just like what I taught, they liked me and how I interacted with them and what else I offered them that wasn't just stick your leg over here or tighten your belly, right?
Right.
So they came to learn about life from the way that I saw it, as opposed to just, she's another movement teacher.
Right.
Most of them asked me about food and nutrition and sleep and all these other life aspects without it being part of their movement class. And so when I went out on my own, which was a gift from my previous employer, I decided that if they were going to come here, they were going to come here because they wanted to be with me and they wanted to explore their life, not just one thing. So I tried to create a business which had a lot of different hooks to attract people that we're all wellness oriented.
And I think that that's what we talk about a lot is not having kind of cookie cutter business models, right? Because a lot of people get started and they think, well, I should do things this way because that's the way that other people do it. And what they soon discover is that it really feels out of alignment for them. And then when you're out of alignment in your business, it's hard to put the energy in, right? It's hard to really get excited and
Well,
work
it's
the
hard to do it
hours.
enthusiastically. Yeah.
That's right. That's
And it's hard to
right.
keep up with it. You'll do it for a little bit, but then it kind of fades and you don't want to do
Yeah.
it anymore.
Yeah, and one of the other things that I loved about what you said is that they wanted you, right? And they wanted you and your own personal take on wellness. And
Right.
so when we try to fit into these cookie cutters, we're not us. And our clients want more of us. They don't want more of a thing. They want more of us, right?
Yeah. I mean, there's lots of places they could go if they just want to take a class.
Totally. Yeah.
And I can give them a list of places to try, you know.
Right.
But if all they want is a cheap class, this is not the place. That's not what I'm here for.
So
I'm here for more.
that's a really mature way of looking at your business too, because I think a lot of people get stuck in this kind of scarcity mentality where they're like, well, there's a cheaper offer, so maybe I need to be cheaper.
Yeah, it's tricky, especially if financial wellness is part of what you think is important in life. And I have a wellness business. Financial wellness is an important aspect too, not just mine, but also my clients. So I don't lock them into anything which might not work for them long term. They can always be fluid and flexible as long as it's fair to everyone.
Okay, that's an awesome principle. So my question to you was going to be, how do you reconcile that when you are does financial health necessarily mean paying the least you can for services?
No, what it means is that what you do choose to pay for benefits you in a way that is the most benefit that you can get. So if someone pays me for one style of class for a month and doesn't like it, then we don't do that the next month, right? We find something else. It also goes to the point where, I have an unlimited membership, which people take advantage of, and we check in on how much they're using it. And the agreement is, if you're not using it enough, it wasn't a good choice for you. Let's change that. If you paid me for an unlimited membership and used it 2 times, that's not really fair. Not fair to the client, but to have me changing and always taking less money isn't fair to me. So we come up with a good alternative. Maybe we do convert that so that they can not take a class but get in the sauna, right? Because there's choices here. And they don't always have to involve me making less. Sometimes it means that they want to add and I make more.
Right. It's this total alignment of value. And I've said this before and I'll say it again. The exchange of money is the exchange of energy, right? And I don't mean that in some ethereal sense. It means that I'm giving you some energy because I need something and I'm excited to get it because it's going to help me. It's
Right.
going to, it's
Right.
going to do something positive in my life. And you're taking
Right.
energy that says, I believe in this and I value what you do. And so when a lot of people get into that scarcity mode and they start charging less for their services, and you know what, health and wellness is a particular area where this gets really, really tricky because there's a lot of judgment associated with the provision of health and wellness services that there's an opinion out there sometimes that we shouldn't be charging for some of these things. So how do you address that?
Well, I'm definitely not the most expensive in the area, but I'm also not the cheapest. So I try to value myself at what I think is fair. So for example, when the pandemic hit and all of a sudden my tiny place that couldn't handle more than 6 people in a room was still had too many people and people were opting to stay home. Okay, great. Let's set you up with virtual classes. But you know what? They have less value to them because when you're here in the studio with me, I can walk all around you. I can see you. I can give you props and adjust you. I can give you help. I can touch you. But I can't do that when you're at home. Therefore, the virtual classes cost less because they're worth less, right?
From
But
your
if you're
customer.
here in the studio, it's the same price
Right.
because you're getting more value for it.
Right. Right.
And what I found is that people, they really like having both options. You know, even the ones who are coming to the studio take class from home virtually because they can get more than they were before.
Right. Due to
Right?
scheduling and that
Due
sort
to
of thing.
scheduling, you don't have to deal with the driving to come in here, even if it's only 5 minutes, it's still time,
Yeah.
you know?
So tell me a little bit about how you work with your clients. So if I, if your client comes to you and says, I want to solve this particular problem, what's your process?
So if they're doing that, usually it's because they're an existing client and they're like, I have something new that I want to work on, right? So we schedule a check-in session and we talk about what is it that is going on that's new or that is changing in your life that you need to deal with. So suppose it's how you look or that you're low on energy. Okay, so we talk about what are you doing? What do your days look like? How predictable are they? How's your sleep? So we have a conversation. And from that conversation, which leads to questions, usually me asking them questions, not them asking me. Right? I'm trying to get them to think about what their choices are so that they can perhaps figure out what different choices need to happen. Then we'll figure out whether I have tools that will help them make the changes that they're looking to make. Sometimes the answer is yes. Sometimes it's just they need to go outside for 10 minutes at lunchtime, right? That's a super easy fix. You know, your eyes are hurting after you work for 4 hours on your computer. Stop looking at the computer, go outside, you know? If the problem is you're not sleeping well, we talk about when you ate dinner last and how your hydration was, and did you do something stressful late in the day that's going to keep you up, or do you need to take one of these nice calming classes that helps you settle down for bed, right?
Right. Right.
So the answers that we come up with are their answers. I'm just guiding them how to think.
Right.
Right. So I use my scientific thought process that I learned. I have a PhD in science to help guide them into sort of a logical process to figure out what's working and what doesn't. So instead of me throwing out sales pitches of, oh, you can't sleep well, get in the red lights. The red lights will help. Red light therapy is great for helping regulate your circadian rhythm. But maybe that's not what they need. Maybe they just need to go to sleep earlier, you know? So this is about lifestyle changes and how I can help them. And sometimes it's just the thinking part.
I love that you've brought together this really scientific background and something that's very like kind of heart-centered and human and, um, wellness oriented. So how did you find yourself kind of borrowing from both of those worlds?
Well, I think that's actually one of the reasons why even though I started with yoga, I love teaching Pilates. And Pilates to me is complementary to yoga, but it's much more scientific in my mind. So it's about the process. You do this, you do that, you do whatever. It's all in order. The order matters. We get to talk about the very specific details about what you're feeling. We get to talk about how the brain talks to the body to get everything to work well. And so when I started teaching Pilates, I took that mental process, which I know is my scientific brain, and I teach yoga that way. And
Ah,
I teach bar that way. So that's what I meant earlier when I said that when someone likes me, it's that they like how I'm explaining the world to them. So that can include diet, it can include sleep, it can include whatever. So it's that scientific process and the explanations and the clarity that seems to work, even though now I'm in this very heart-centered, energetically based yoga, wellness, everybody feel good kind of a thing, right? So it's kind of like the blend of the two sides of their brain.
I love it. And who do you attract? Like who are these people that are more attracted to that kind of scientific approach to wellness and arguably spirituality that who are those people that want that?
Well, based on who I have, it has been mostly the strong, independent women who know what they like and know what they don't, and are not afraid to ask for it. They want to be healthy, they want to feel great, and they want it to be as easy as possible. And so they're willing to put the time into their own self care. They just want a little guidance and a little help and a little encouragement.
Right.
So my clients know, for example, that if I look at my class registrations for the next few days and their name's not on the list, they're going to get a text from me asking if they forgot or if they've just got a change of schedule for the week, right? So they're busy, but they don't want to be let off the hook.
Right.
They want to be reminded.
They want the
They want to
accountability.
be encouraged.
Yeah.
They want me to facilitate.
So given
Right.
that, how are you working with your clients? Like, are you selling them one-off sessions? Are you selling them packages? Are there programs that they can take?
So surprisingly, most of my clients are really happy in my group classes.
Mm.
But my group classes have 6 people or less in them. So that's it. you know, and I might have 1 or 2 in the studio and then the rest at home. They might all be at home. The 7 o'clock classes, people want to just be at home in the morning. They're trying to get their wellness activities done before they start their day or before their kids wake up or whatever. So I do have privates who just meet one-on-one. Usually those are the newer people who are still feeling like they need that focus time to learn how to do it well until they're comfortable with their own skill levels, shall we say, to be able to do it in a group and get as much out of it as they did a private. Now, a group class is never the same as a private, except that with only 6 or less people in it, they're pretty close. I call people out, hey, Brian, grab your pillow. Mary's going to go straight legs for this, and, Julie's going to go bent knees, right?
Yeah,
so they get their individual instructions, even in a group setting and even at home.
Yeah, I like that. I run my group program the same way. It's very small, it's intimate, and it's considered to be less costly than working one-on-one, but really people in that program are getting pretty dedicated attention. So is that important to you? Like, do you prefer to work in that way where you're able to have more one-on-one interaction?
I am much better with a small group of people. 6 is still a lot to pay attention to. But people benefit from what the other people in class hear and need. And so those tiny groups are great.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think that the community, the group aspect is really important. Even just hearing someone else being coached, like that, I think that that's just as valuable because there's questions that, there are things that you might remind yourself to do that you've seen other people do and so on.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I tell all my new people, or if they're just new to a particular class, don't forget that everyone learns from any question asked. So just because you think that other people probably know the answer doesn't mean you shouldn't ask the question.
So you work in an industry that's quite well populated. How have you seen that industry change since you started?
Well, I have had still a fairly limited viewpoint. I've worked at the local colleges, I've worked at the small studios, and I've worked at the larger gyms. But it seems like the pandemic provided the biggest change in people's needs compared to the last few years before that. People are much more focused on doing what feels right to them and what they're comfortable with, both in their activities, their movement, their food, and also just in everything. I think that they are focused on making personal choices more important than kind of going along with the flow.
Oh, that's a really interesting observation. So, how does that manifest itself with your clients?
Well, with my clients, I'm all about personal choice. You have many choices in life. Let's figure out what works for you. And in 2 months, it's probably going to be something slightly different, right? So, in terms of the last year, we've made a lot of changes. A lot of I can do this month, next month. Oh no, I can't come to the studio anymore. I'm scared, or now I've had a more personal connection, or now my job has changed. Mental flexibility is a really important skill, both for a business owner and for any human. The ability to be able to adapt and change what you do based on what's going on in life on that day. For those of us that tend to be creatures of habit, that's kind of hard, kind of tricky.
So, that's interesting. So, we've talked a lot about resilience in the last year,
Yep.
just because, well, look what we just went through.
It's
How have you been able to find resilience in your own business?
patience. If I'm not patient with my clients and with myself, then the stress level goes up, and then lots of things start to feel not right. You start to get worried about money coming in or money going out or time spent or client commitment, all these things. I have a small number of clients. I've only been open for a year and a month. So I was only open 3 months before I had to close the
Oh,
first
wow.
time for the pandemic. So, the growth aspect is a little slower than one might have hoped. But understanding that that's not necessarily all me, you know, is an important thing. So that patience, that things will happen, but you don't stop and wait for them.
That's right.
Going, and ideally you go in more directions than you had initially thought you might.
So, there's opportunity in the resilience.
Absolutely, I have added things and grown things in a seeking of resilience. To add resilience, let's add more paths.
That is so fascinating. I haven't heard anybody answer that question yet in that way. And I'd love to know. So that kind of piggybacks nicely into my next question, which is around growth for you. So tell me a little bit about what growth has meant for you, because sometimes growth for people is not necessarily about financial growth. It's about growth in different ways. So what have you kind of grown around? What are some of those priorities?
Well, of course, when I first opened in December of 2019, I opened with movement classes and some ideas. And now I've got several small rooms, each with their own private wellness activity. There's an infrared sauna, there's a red light therapy system. I've got organic farm vegetable pickups, which started at the very beginning of the pandemic. So you don't have to go to a farmer's market. You can pop in here, grab your bag, and leave. I expanded and have prepared food as well. So a local chef makes fresh raw veggie juices and organic sourdough bread and things like that. So you can pick that up midweek and then pick your veggies up on the weekend. There's a meditation membership which was added. It started off as some classes. The classes are like, people always wanted them at certain times, but not the same time as everybody else. So, okay, you want a personal time to meditate and you want to hear my voice. Let's make recordings,
I
right?
love it.
So now there's a SoundCloud playlist that you can get each month, which has your recordings for that month, and you can listen to it whenever and however you wish, right? So there's been growth led by the clients asking for things, and there's been growth led by people have asked me how I do this whole life thing. And how can I possibly eat the way I do and live the way I do? So, what can I bring to my clients that I do in my own life?
Amazing. And you have, that's you're not just providing services, but you're acting as a role model and a mentor to your clients.
I'm trying.
And with each of these opportunities, what has worked for you in terms of growth and finding new clients?
So, finding new clients is still kind of a tricky thing. Virtual clients are a little easier to attract these days, but harder to find when you're a small, new local business. Local people are not sure about going to a new place that they haven't been to pre-pandemic, right? There's a little bit of that fear factor still. Changes, with the season, people were more comfortable in the summer. Now with the vaccine coming along, people's opinions are changing again. So what is working is making sure that I have time to have an actual conversation that isn't quick and brief because I'm on my way to teach a class when someone walks in the door, right? So I'm still all by appointment, but the new people can make a free appointment for a 15-minute consult, either virtually or in person. And as long as they do that instead of just jumping into a class or jumping into a session, that works much better.
And how are they finding you?
A lot of people are found because they know my previous clients, right? So I got a lot of family members receiving gift certificates for Christmas this year. I love this place. I think you will too. Please try it, right? And those family members are having a really great January. They're enjoying their gifts. Sometimes I find them because I have one service which is on Groupon. So they find me there. Oh, I didn't know you existed. Oh, look at all the things that you have. Let me come in for a new client consult, and then I'll schedule my session So, and I'm working on SEO so that people can find, because I have so many things. I should be able to be found for all kinds of services as long as I can pop up.
You need to meet my friend Meg.
I have met your friend Meg, and I've given Meg money already.
Oh, good. She's fantastic. She is the authority for sure.
Yep.
So we talked about what's worked for you in terms of getting found. What has not worked for you? I mean, in the interest of us talking real talk, what just doesn't work for you as a local business, as a business that is, who you are?
So what hasn't worked as well as I thought it would is connecting to other wellness-oriented businesses who are very focused on what they do. If they're a massage place or they're a chiropractor, whatever. In my mind, we're all doing the same thing. We're helping people feel great, right? But because I'm so broad in what I do, it sometimes I think doesn't translate well into, well, what do I send them to you for? Like, right. What's the thing I send them to you for? Everything, But if their business model is very focused on this is the one thing that I do spectacularly, right? Then sometimes there's a translation error, right? So even if they know me, some people have known me for years, but it's like, but what do you actually do, right? So sometimes I have a hard time explaining to the potential referrals what it is that they do, because they just want the one phrase,
right? And what is that for you right now?
Well, it's wellness lifestyle, but that sounds very vague.
But what do you think? What do you think is different about the wellness lifestyle services that you offer?
It's about lifestyle, not just one choice, right? If I identified as a yoga studio, Okay, you go to see Zoa for yoga. Done. You can also go see this person, this person, this person, this person for yoga, right? Um, or if you want to be pain free, you could go to a doctor, you could go take yoga class, you could go to this, or you could come here and do 5 different things, right?
So it's not
That
really
are,
about the service, it's about the integration of
I
the
think it's
service.
about the education and the understanding,
Yeah, and
right?
as we know that all of these systems that we have in our bodies and in our lives are so integrated and influence each other, that's going to resonate with someone, right? That I'm not dealing with this just the symptom, but I'm fixing all of the pieces around it, right?
Right. So I think people who are already holistically minded come here and they go, oh my God, I am so glad I found you. Where have you been all my life? Right? People who are not yet in that thought process are like, but what do you do? Like what's the one thing that you fix? We don't fix one thing, right? We fix your sleep and then you have more energy. And then when you have more energy, your metabolism is better. And then when your metabolism is better, you lose weight. So you lose weight by sleeping. And they go, what?
But
I
they're
lose
coming
weight
to
by eating less, right?
right, but they're coming to you because they're trying to lose weight. And this is typical, right? Some our
Right,
clients all come to us for one reason, and then
right.
it's up to us to educate them to make sure that they understand that that one reason is actually integrated to I'm the same way. I mean, I don't
Absolutely.
just talk about marketing. I don't just talk about, because to me our business is a system, and you cannot fix one thing without the other being fixed as well. And it's otherwise you get what I call a Franken business, right?
Right.
Like an arm you learned about over here and a leg you learned about over there. So it's impossible for me to put that angle of sort of specificity on the
Right.
services that I provide. But just like you, the differentiation is that you really look at lifestyle as an integrated service, right? But they're
Yes.
still coming to you. They're still coming to you and finding you because of one
Because of
thing.
one thing. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in your
But
market,
sometimes if they've got the one thing really focused on their mind, and they also sometimes think they know what the solution should be, and then I offer additional solutions and they go, oh, but that's not what I know about yet. So
right.
there's an education component to that,
Yeah.
which is super important.
Yes, absolutely. That piece of your business is critical
Right.
because you're introducing them to something they don't know about yet, which is really
Right.
fun. And it
Mm-hmm.
gives you the opportunity to be really differentiated, but you will have to spend more time helping them understand what their problem is on those early education phase than others might have to.
Right. So that's why when you go to my website, there's a lot there, right? And it's because it's an education site, not just here's my prices, here's the schedule button,
Yeah. And
right?
so from the SEO perspective, you would be focusing on those one things so you
Right?
get found for them, and then you get the opportunity to educate them.
Yep.
Yeah, smart. So tell me about what you would say is the most pivotal moment in your business so far.
The most pivotal moment is probably deciding to actually do it. um, and then not being scared about all the changes that were going to come along as I did it.
Yeah.
So I grew up the daughter of a small business owner. And I remember she just worked all the time, it's felt like, you know? And I didn't want to do that, but I was already doing that for my previous employer.
Mhm.
I was already working really, really hard and, certainly benefiting from it, but not getting to make the choices that I wanted to.
That's
And I remember when I decided to open my business and I told my mom, she said, you tried really hard to be a good employee for so long. She's like, you lasted way longer than I thought you would.
I'm unemployable. I'm the same way. I can't work
Yeah,
for other people,
yeah,
especially now. So you said something interesting about fear, that you had a lot of fear. What did you do to get past that? Because that is honestly the number one thing that freezes people up. And I see so many potential business owners just not be able to get past that first step because of the fear. So, how do you deal with fear?
Well, it depends on the source of the fear. If the source of the fear is, I'm afraid I can't get clients, I look at the ones that I have and how much they are happy to be here. And I go, okay, so there must be more humans like that on the world. There
Yeah.
must be. I just have to find them. They have to know that I exist,
Yes.
right? If the problem that is the source of the fear is because I think I can't do something, well, my goodness, that's just an opportunity to learn. And I am a constant learner.
It's a challenge.
Yeah.
Yeah. The best way to get me to do something is to tell me I can't.
That doesn't work so well for me, although people in my past have certainly tried. What works better for me is to go, you know what? This is important enough that I want to know it. And therefore, I can because I'm very capable. I can learn this. I can get good at it if I choose to.
And this is all coming back to alignment, right? This is some of the things we've been talking about in this challenge over the last week and a half is how important alignment is to actually getting clients because you are when you're not able to speak from a place of passion and excitement and what's really rooted down in your core, gets it a lot harder to build that business, doesn't it?
It does.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's much easier if you can feel like you are speaking from your heart and from your mind and not from a place of fear.
Yeah, and fear is real for all of us. I think that it just, what makes the difference is what we do about it, right? Whether we let it stall
Right.
us or whether we take that next little, like the antidote to fear is action, right? And then the very
Yep.
next thing that we do is what breaks that down for us. So you really have to analyze what that fear is all about. And I've written a piece on fear of success because I honestly think that fear of failure, I mean, we're kind of conditioned around that already. We understand that it exists and that's the fear that we understand best, but I actually think it's less prevalent than the fear of failure or the fear of success, because fear of success means that I'm going to have to be a different person, or I'm going to have to change my lifestyle, or something's going to have to change in me and I don't like that. Right.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
You're comfortable with where you are now.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Right.
comfort is perhaps another way of labeling fear. Right.
Yep.
So this is a question I ask everybody. Interested to hear your response. We are constantly inundated with information and education and literature and stuff about what business should look like or how it should go. What's the biggest gap now that you have some experience between what's real and what we hear out there in the business world?
Well, I think that what we hear in the business world is a conglomeration of what works for the people who are willing to tell you about it, right? And so you can categorize those people however you want, but the chances that you are the same as those people is pretty slim because there's a large variety of people, right? So, for example, I'm not an extrovert. Nobody could mistake me for one. But I'm pretty good with my small groups. So the things that are marketing, for example, that work well for people who are very extroverted, who are happy starting up conversations, chit chatting to anyone, they could make my teeth hurt. It's like, do I have to do that? The answer is no. No, I don't have to. But if all I do is look for the first two articles that pop up when I search for marketing, I'm going to find that tools that someone else thought they worked well for and that don't work for me. So sifting through that information to figure out what aligns with you, I think is important. And as a new business person, it's hard to sift. You don't know what to look for.
Right.
Right.
such a great point. And this is something I've talked about a lot is that your marketing activities, like there was one lady in the group who said, but I hate social media. I don't want to
Yeah.
do. I'm like, so don't do it. You don't have to. There are 100 different ways that we can market our businesses, and you really don't need to practice 100 different ways. And you can do one. You can do
Right.
one and be completely successful, but you have to
Right.
find the one that works well for you. Absolutely. But even in those kind of categories, there's categories. So I
Mm-hmm.
am an extrovert, and I don't necessarily want to do half of the things that, are touted as great marketing
Right.
activities for
Come hold your shoes
extroverts.
off.
So we all need to figure out who we are first before we go and figure out our plans.
Right. And
Um,
I think when you're starting up a new business, it's really hard to take that advice first before you've had your toes in the water.
that's right. And that's why I say to a lot of people, if you're early, like you haven't even started yet, just go out there and make a mess. Go out and make a mess, try some things, figure them out, and then you have something to work with, right? As opposed
Right.
to trying to make all those decisions. A lot of people want it to be perfect before they start, and
Yeah, that's just not possible.
it's not. It's not.
No.
What do you wish you knew before you got started? Like, what would you love to have everybody who's listening know that will help them on their journey?
I think that the thing I would have appreciated knowing more about was the wide variety of marketing and operational paths out there, you know, because if you don't have a lot of experience with a lot of small businesses, maybe just with the one or two, that's your world.
Right.
That's how things are done. And it's kind of like the story about why does the recipe for making the roast involve cutting it in half? It's because grandmother's pan didn't fit it, right? It has nothing to do with a good operational principle or a good recipe. It has to do with the fact that you're just perpetuating what your experience is instead of asking why it worked.
Why? So ask why. Right. I like it.
Ask why.
I like it.
Yep. It's kind of the same thing as when you're choosing a doctor, right? You ask your friends, you ask people you know, who do you go to? I'm looking for a new whatever. And then the next question is, why do you like them? Why did you go back a second time?
Comes back to alignment, right?
Yep.
Is that
You know?
does that matter to you? I don't know.
Yeah, because if you're going because their office hours are convenient, great. But I might be going for something totally different.
Totally. Totally. You like the color of his lab coat.
Yeah, or bedside manner or approach to vaccines or ability to ask questions in the middle of the night, whatever it is, it's important to you. You got to ask why.
Absolutely. So what's next for you?
What's next is figuring out what I can be doing differently and better to let more people find me.
Mm.
When I first started the business, I was thinking, oh, I'm going to do things like local events. I'm looking for local people who can walk in my doors. Guess what? Those aren't happening. Right? So even though that's not my forte, it was something that I thought I was going to be expected to do. And now I don't have to because it's not even an option. I get to find something new, some new paths.
And what do you think those are going to be?
Well, right now, SEO
Mm-hmm.
and looking for other people locally who align with the way that I want to be.
Yeah. One of the
Right?
fastest ways to grow your client base is through partnership.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I partner with farmers and, this person and that person for services offered here. But the expansion of that into other people who we can refer to each other, you know, uh, who is the acupuncturist I should go see, Zoa? You go see so-and-so. Okay, so so-and-so can send back to me as well. So that kind of a mutual referral,
Yeah.
that's what I'll be seeking.
Yeah. Very, very smart. And for your future vision, what kind of support do you need in order to get there?
That's an excellent question. Um, right now, things like copywriting and does this make any sense to you? Right? I part of the reason that people like me is the scientific thinking, but it has to be put into a form that's accessible to other people whose brains operate differently. So I might read and write something in terms of the education piece that makes total sense to me, and other people might go, yeah, no idea what you're talking about. So that's not helpful,
Right.
right? It's not educational if they don't want to read it because they get turned off in the first paragraph.
Right. So you need that sort
So,
of community of folks that are going to be able
of,
to provide that
right?
feedback.
Yep.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, hopefully in the group that there are going to be some of those people that can help you along the way. And I would encourage you to reach out and ask for that help. We're coming up on the hour. Thank you so much for taking the time to chat. Can you tell the listeners how they can find you?
Sure. So even though I'm not a social media person, I am on Facebook at Zen and Vitality with Zoa, and I am on Instagram, but the primary place is through my website, which is zenandvitality.com. And there's a lot of things to do there. You can poke around and see. I started a blog. Thank you to Meg for that. You know, that is one of the best ways to educate people when you have a lot to tell them about, more than just a quick photo.
Great. Well, we'll put all those links in the show notes for sure. And I want to thank you for being with us today. I love having the health and wellness field in the podcast because I think there are a lot of people that can relate to it, but also a lot of people who need the help right now for sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Wellness is a really important part.
Yeah. Wonderful. So that's a wrap for this episode. And it was such a great conversation. It was so nice to talk to you, Zoa, and get to know you. So make sure and go and check out Zoa and her incredible offers and all of the education and the information that she shares. And thank you for tuning in today to hear this story. The episodes that you're listening to are all featuring members of my free private Facebook group called the Real Deal Business Coaching Group, which is soon going to be called Real People, Real Business when Facebook allows us. Where we have daily prompts to keep you focused on building your business, sharing your everyday challenges, bi-weekly chats, open coaching, member support, all sorts of good things going on in this incredible community. If you'd like to join us or you'd like to be featured on the show, I would love for you to come and hang out with us in the group. Links in the show notes, or search up Real Deal Business Coaching in Facebook to find us. And finally, come and join us for our next episode where we're going to be interviewing another real business owner who is going to be sharing their story. So thanks for being here. And if you have enjoyed today's content, I would love for you to give us a review on whatever platform you're on. This helps us share these stories with an even bigger audience. So until next time, keep building, keep dreaming, and keep being real.